Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible, and we are going to be looking at 7 brand new releases that I've reviewed. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with the movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. I also want to touch on the availability of these titles, as I have personally went to each one of the services and verified that these movies are available. And if you are having trouble seeing them, there is probably one of 2 main reasons. One, you might be region locked. And the other reason is if you are watching this video far into the future, I can't verify that these movies are still on these services. And lastly, this is just a review, and these are just my opinion. As always, try to pay more attention to the actual things that I'm saying more than the scores, because scores are just so arbitrary. But I do try to give valid justifications for my scores, and that probably will kind of help you determine more than the actual score on whether or not you want to check the movie. But if you did have some disagreements, and of course you will, please leave them down in the comments. I'm already ready for a discussion. Just know that I'm not here to kind of argue with you, because it's just so subjective. I don't think that there's anything to be gained. But sometimes, hey, sometimes listening to a review you don't agree with might make you go back and watch the movie with a second light, and vice versa to me. Like if I give a bad score to a movie and then you're like, hey man, did you notice this and this, or for these reasons it was way better than this, then that might make me look at it in a different light. So I always find those kind of discussions valuable and valid. But with that, let's get right to some reviews. The first movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 drama horror thriller named The Surrender, and this movie's available on Shudder. When the family patriarch dies, a grieving mother and daughter risk their lives to perform a brutal resurrection ritual and bring him back from the dead. It is directed by Julia Max. So the final score that I gave this movie was a 6, and the reason why I gave it a 6 is because The Surrender is a pretty decent dark ritual flick. When it comes to the creeps and scares, there's definitely some, but they're more on the lighter side. But they do work well with the tone of the film. It's just most of the scares in the movie end up being a couple of really well-timed jump scares with a couple of small creepy moments sprinkled throughout. Now for the gore. The movie does kick off with a pretty gory opener, and it almost made me think that the movie was going to end up being this like really gory bloodfest, but it really did taper off and kind of tame out by the end. And it turns out that the movie really only had a couple of like really gory scenes for us. And while those raw and gory scenes are hard when they hit, they just weren't frequent. Production-wise, this film looks and sounds great. The sound design and cinematography definitely give this movie a big-budget feel, and the performances felt solid throughout. It leans heavy into the drama realm with a focus on grief and emotion, and you really can feel it. Plus, when we're talking about performances, Colby Minifie in particular just really nails the role, and she plays like the grief and fear and hysteria just perfectly. Now, the film has a pretty small cast. It's basically just the 4 main characters plus one really small side role, but everyone does tend to deliver. And while sure, the premise is kind of cliche and you do kind of get an idea of where the whole movie's heading, it's still kind of left enough mystery in its plot to kind of just leave you wondering where it was all going to end up. And speaking of that ending, it is a little bit cryptic, but I did find it kind of clear enough to follow. Overall, The Surrender's a decent watch if you're in the mood for a slower burn drama that really focuses in on that like grief with some horror elements mixed in. And if that sounds like your vibe, then this is a decent one to add to your watch list.
We need to gather all his precious objects.
They sent me a list. Things we have to prepare before his arrival.
Who is coming over?
The man Deb recommended.
Recommended for what? What's that for?
Protection.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 comedy drama horror named The Ugly Stepsister. And this movie's available on Shudder.
I've lost my mind.
This film follows Elvira as she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme. She resorts to extreme measures to captivate a prince amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. It is directed by Emily Blickfeld. So the final score that I gave The Ugly Stepsister was a 7, and the reason why I gave it a 7 is because this movie is a raw, dark, body-obsessed horror with a sharp edge on dark comedy. Now, when it comes to the creeps and scares of the film, they're pretty light and almost to a point of being non-existent, but you'd expect that with a movie like this where comedy is the main layer. But where the film really delivers is in its moments of gore, which are just raw and visceral. And a couple of instances are just really painful and make you kind of wince and squirm as you watch them. Now, while the movie is not a gore fest, I did think that the moments of gore, they just hit hard. And like I said, they were visceral. And it just was way more of a gory movie than I really expected, which was good in the best way. So next, we're going to touch on the production of the film. And the film looks good and the acting was on point. And the leads all play their role well, but Elvira, who's the girl going through all the things, really absolutely sells the agony. In the movie, her screams are just often gut-wrenching, and it really just sells like the torture that she's going through. I also really appreciated the dark, subtle humor throughout the film. And I appreciated that it never really devolved into anything slapstick. It was just sharp and dark with its tone. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the story, and yes, it is clever, and I know that it's like a reimagining of a Cinderella story, but the way that the story unfolds, it just feels very different and creative. And it gives this classic tale a twisted, dark makeover that not only feels entertaining, but meaningful. And right from the beginning, you know you're in for something grim, and the pitch black humor just fits in seamlessly with this like dark fairy tale world. Overall, I felt like The Ugly Stepsister was a strong watch. As long as you're not expecting a traditional horror that's packed with a bunch of creeps and scares and kind of leans more into this comedy body horror element, then I think this one definitely earns a spot on your watch list. Next movie I watched was a 2022 drama fantasy horror named You Won't Be Alone. And this movie is available on Netflix. In an isolated mountain village in 19th century Macedonia, a young girl is kidnapped and then transformed into a witch by an ancient spirit. It is directed by Goran Stolevsky. Okay, so the final score that I gave You Won't Be Alone was actually a 7.5 because I think that You Won't Be Alone is an excellent dark witch horror. Though I do have to start off by saying that this movie leans way more into drama than traditional scares. Because this movie is a character-driven story for sure, and it more focuses on like personal growth, identity, and just really a sense of belonging. And even though there's a light layer of horror kind of running underneath this movie, I really wouldn't go in expecting kind of traditional creeps and scares, because honestly, I don't even really think that that's what this movie's about. Now, speaking more directly on the creeps and scares, honestly, they're very light. There's just not many scares, and from a pure horror standpoint, I don't think the film's gonna stick with you. That being said, at least the gore in the film is like really raw and visceral, and it's just super graphic in the couple points where it shows up. Because when the film is dealing with the gore, it really does so with restraint, and it just doesn't overdo it at all. Honestly, even for the instances of gore there are in this movie, they just never really feel gratuitous. Now, where this film does tend to truly shine is in the acting and production. The period setting in the film is incredibly well done, and the whole world just feels authentic and lived in. And when it comes to the performances, they are good across the board. When it comes to the main character, her journey, and just basically learning life through other people's eyes, it's profound and moving. And even though the actual horror in the film doesn't leave a lasting impression, just her emotions and character growth and how she feels certainly does. Which next kind of brings me to the antagonist of the film, which has its own sense of depth because every time she shows up, she's just so wicked and cruel and just comes with this sense of dread in the frame of the story. And the story itself has this unique depth that I'm not going to delve too deep into because I don't really want to spoil it. But the film really does end up becoming this metaphor for like growth and learning and the human condition. And I love to see when they use horror films in this way, when they almost become a vessel showing both the beauty and brutality of life. So the bottom line is this: if you're into a deeper, slower burn drama that kind of uses the horror as a backdrop for the emotional kind of journey that you see here, then I really feel like this film is a must watch. And it really does skip the traditional scares for something a lot more introspective and layered. And if that sounds like your kind of film, then this one absolutely earns a spot on your watch list. Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 action drama horror named Sinners. And this movie is available on Google Play and Amazon Prime.
Our daddy was an evil man. And he passed that evil down to us.
Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. It is directed by Ryan Coogler. Okay, so the final score that I gave Sinners was an 8 because I thought it was a great, albeit at times horror-wise, slow burn vampire horror movie. There are a few jump scares here and there, but overall it just doesn't kind of really overly lean into the horror creepy vibe. Now, when it comes to the gore in the film, the second half definitely delivers. Once it ramps up, you get a pretty solid bloodbath with some pretty nasty vampire bites and wounds. The second half of the movie, when it comes to the gore after kind of getting through the first half, it really does pay off. Now, production-wise, this film looks great. From the set pieces to the props to the costumes, even the cars, it was all on point. And I've really got to call out the music because even though I don't mention it often, the music in this film is really on point as well. And it really does stand out as an integral part of the atmosphere and story. Now, the story for this movie was really strong and comes with a really good, strong black narrative. And that's not a knock. It's just something that I'm saying is present. Now, personally, when it comes to kind of my black narrative content, I do prefer for the, in a nowadays setting, I prefer for some of the jokes and references to be a little more subtle because I find that they can be overdone. But when we're really looking at the period and the life and just all the kind of trappings surrounding the setting and time period, I really felt like that kind of heavy-handed, overly deep tone really fit the film. And I really love the fact that the music digs deeper into like themes of the music and culture. And in that respect, I felt like the commentary was way more than just surface level. And now comes the one caveat that I do have with the movie, and you are looking at more of a slow burn for sure. Because if you're not into the cultural narratives or really don't like kind of a slower period piece, the movie doesn't overly rely on the creeps and scares, so that part just might not hit with you. And although I really love these slower burns like The Witch or The Devil's Bath that just show you the harsh realities of earlier time periods, I still feel like even in those movies, which are some of my favorites, if they had taken 45 minutes to an hour to get to the horror part, I really would just at least have to mention it. And with Sinners, although you know I rated it as a great movie, that does happen a little bit in the first act. I think that there's a reason that this movie is dubbed like action, drama, then horror, like in that order. And after you watch the film, it does start to really make sense. Overall, I have to say that Sinners is a deep, thoughtful film that is definitely worth checking out. It does a great job of telling a meaningful story with just some deeper symbolism that you can really like sink your teeth into. I just want people to know what they're getting because if you just want something that's non-stop scares, this one might not be it. But if you are down with like a slow burning, well-made, culturally relevant kind of horror drama, then this one is a must watch on your watch list.
What you come back for?
You throwing a big event tonight?
Your money come with blood.
All money come with blood, baby.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 straight horror named Rosario. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime.
What do you want from me?
Rosario spends the night with her grandmother's body as she awaits for the ambulance to arrive. During a severe snowfall, Rosario is attacked by otherworldly entities that have taken control of her grandmother's body. It is directed by Felipe Vargas. So the final score that I gave Rosario was a 5.5, and that's because I thought that Rosario was a very middle of the road, kind of supernatural witch horror, where just nothing really stood out. When it comes to the creeps and scares of the film, they're okay. I mean, there is a couple of jump scares and a couple of like decent creepy moments, but most of them just really surrounded kind of the entity in the body, which you'd expect. And it was okay. Like, it gave me some good drag me to hell vibes. And as for the gore, that too is pretty tame. I mean, there's a couple gory moments just surrounding like this rotting body, but as for like violence or visceral gore, there's just not much of it there. And honestly, most of the unsettling visions, they really do come just from the corpse. Now, production-wise, the film did look good. Like, the film does feel like it's got a really decent budget, and I did like the casting. And I thought that David Dastmalchian and Jose Zuniga, they were great, even though their characters were just a little bit underused. But honestly, when it came to this film, acting across the board wasn't a problem at all. For me personally, where Rosario falls short is the story. The premise for the film really had potential, and I liked the overall setting and the initial mystery. But as the plot moves forward, I really did feel like it just started to feel a little bit forced. And the third act definitely dips into some pretty cheesy territory. And while it's not enough to ruin the film, it does hold it back from being something just a little more memorable. Overall, I think Rosario was worth the watch if you're in the mood for some classic supernatural action with a few creeps and scares sprinkled in. I just found it really lacking that spark or depth to really kind of make it something deep or stand out. So I think it's an okay watch, maybe a one-time watch for your watch list.
See, abuela.
Hello? Your grandma, she's no longer with us. She passed.
Was she ill?
She's an old lady. She's falling apart, you know. Here we are. Be down the hall.
What happened to you?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a 2025 drama horror named Until Dawn. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime.
What is that?
A group of friends is trapped in a time loop where mysterious foes chase and kill them in gruesome ways, and they must survive till dawn to escape it. It is directed by David F. Sandberg. So the final score that I gave this movie was a 6, and that is because after watching Until Dawn, I thought this was a decent time-looping zombie horror with just enough fun in it to make it watchable. When it comes to the creeps and scares in the film does deliver a bit of tension with some creepy moments, but they're few and far between and pretty light. So gore-wise, there were a couple pretty solid, painful kills, which were practical and bloody, and I did appreciate that. While watching the film, there just wasn't really much CGI in sight, and that does earn a film like this points. Now, the production value for this film feels high, and it definitely is something that was big budget. The film comes with this slight 90s vibe, which is pretty good. I mean, it comes with a couple of cheesy lines, but overall, the movie does look and sound great. The zombies themselves were fine, but nothing groundbreaking, but it definitely worked good for what the movie was going for. Now, as for the story and premise, I didn't mind it at all. Overall, it's not the most original premise, but the time loop setup did give it an interesting twist. And the mystery really kept me engaged throughout. It's not really super deep, but that's alright because the film knows what it is. A light, fun, gory slasher with some undead things thrown in. Overall, I found Until Dawn was just kind of an easy, entertaining watch. It's got enough mystery, a couple of decent kills, and a good mystery that will keep you at least engaged and satisfied. Especially if you're in the mood for something that's just not too heavy. If you did kind of want that light slasher with a twist, then this is a decent one to to put on your watch list.
What the fuck just happened? We all got fucking murdered. And now we're here again.
So the night is just gonna repeat itself.
I don't remember that happening last time.
All right, last movie we're going to look at this week is a 2025 straight horror named The Monkey. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime.
Oh, fuck.
When twin brothers Bill and Hal find their father's old monkey toy in the attic, a series of gruesome deaths start. The siblings decide to throw the toy away and move on with their lives, growing apart over the years. It is directed by Osgood Perkins. Okay, so the final score that I gave this movie was a 7, and that's because after watching The Monkey, I thought this was a good, solid, cursed item horror with great atmosphere and gore. So starting with the creeps and scares, the film doesn't really deliver them in that traditional way, but there is a heavy sense of dread and creep that comes along with the monkey doll in the movie. Because every time the monkey kind of purses his lips and starts beating his drum, there's just this like really good kind of foreboding sense of dread that comes over you in those moments. And when we talk about the music, the unsettling kind of monkey eyes, the creepy doll factor, and just, again, this really foreboding sense of doom, it really was effective and it worked better than I thought it would. Now, as for the gore, this movie is really gory and it doesn't disappoint. It does this really good job of giving us like gnarly, creative deaths that I know horror fans will definitely appreciate. The effects were practical and well done, and they give this film just a really nice punch. Next, we're going to talk about the production side of this movie, and really, this is like top tier stuff. The cinematography and the way the film is cut is sharp, mixed with the sound designs is excellent, and all the performances were believable. Honestly, it feels like a double or even triple A production in those departments. I also love that the premise itself really lived up to the promise. And while it really didn't have those Rube Goldberg machine-style deaths that I really kind of expected out of the movie, it still gave us something that had a real kind of Final Destination vibe. With this just like unpredictability and randomness to the deaths that really kept you on the edge of your seat. All in all, I thought The Monkey was a fun, creepy ride. It has raunchy humor, strong performances, top-tier production, and really solid gore. And the way the beats hit and just the way the movie is, I think that this is a definitely good addition to your watch list.
When I was a kid, my twin brother and I found something that loved to kill. I did everything I could to make it go the fuck away. But it had other plans.
Well, guys, that's it for me. I am out of here after some new movie reviews. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. Now, if I had to make a couple of picks this week, just like in my new movie video, I'm sorry to be a broken record here, but my first pick is going to be Sinners. It really just is an amazing movie, man. It's like I said, it's got that great kind of cultural element, the set pieces, everything is done. I didn't really touch as much on the Michael B. Jordan performance in this review, but honestly, there are parts that he is so good that you just forget he was even a twin. That part's good. It's got really good kind of subtext and symbolism, really amazing cinematography and music. You could just tell it's a big budget movie. It's definitely something that you should see and is going to be my first pick of this video. And the next movie I'm going to pick, even though it isn't the best movie on this list score-wise, but I feel like it's just kind of the easiest watch of them, and that is The Ugly Stepsister. I just think the movie is great, man. It's got really good humor. It flips the Cinderella story on its head in a really good way. It's got just painful, great body horror. And there are a couple of like shocking moments, man. Like you'll see, like there's this one kind of doggy style back shot moment. Like you'll know it when you see it. And if you've seen the movie, say in the comments that you know what I'm talking about. But just that part, that scene is when I came to the full realization that this was going to be a raw movie. And it was, man. And it's funny and it's good. And like I said, it just has really good kind of twists and turns in it. You definitely need to watch that movie. And that is going to be my second pick of the week. And today, I think I'm going to give a couple of honorable mentions, just movies that I really think you should focus on and watch, maybe for different moods. But the first one is going to be You Won't Be Alone. It's just a great, introspective, profound movie. If you can manage to watch it for what it is, like this person kind of experiencing life and learning it, there's something deep here. It just felt deep. It felt like I was watching somebody really experience life, and in that way the performances were awesome, but again, very slow burn. That's why I didn't make it an official pick. And the next pick is going to be The Monkey. I know it's not as good as the others, but it is close, and it's a really fun kind of movie. If you want that kind of Final Destination feel where the kills are just tense and you don't know they're coming, then that is also another great pick. So I'm just going to give those two as my honorable mentions for the video. Well, guys, that's it for me for real this time, as I have got a ton of movies to watch. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have all been taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Let's get it now.
I'm just gonna grab it. Don't move.
Yeah. Oh, what? Is it gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
What? It's still in my face!